everyone, welcome to a new video. This is the second book haul I've done on my channel, so I'm very excited about it. These are all the books that I've accumulated over the last 6 months. So this is a combination of birthday presents and book of the month club and new releases that I just wanted to buy for myself. I went to a school book fair during parent-teacher conferences and grabbed a few books there. And anytime I sell books on Pango.com, I turn around and buy more books with the money that I get. And then also when you're going grocery shopping at like Walmart or Target, and you just have to go through the book aisle, you just have to. It's mandatory. And if those darn books just jump into your cart, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I just didn't have the heart to take them back out. They just really wanted to come home with me. So that's where I've received all of these books. I have quite a few. I think there's like 73 of them. So I don't know how long a video this is going to be. So if I'm editing and it turns out it's like an hour long, I'm probably just going to chop it in half and then do like a part 2 probably in August. I have other video plans for June and July, but I might need to make this into 2 videos depending on how long it is. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the only nonfiction book that I have. This is The Butchering Art by Lindsay Fitzharris. And this one was a buy one, get one 50% off at Barnes & Noble. And I'd always been interested in this book for years and years. But I don't read nonfiction all that often. So when I had the chance to get it for cheaper, I just hurried and nabbed it. So hopefully I can get to this. This is a medical nonfiction book where it talks about how they used to do old surgeries back in like Victorian times. So I'm very intrigued to read this. Okay, I'm going to start with my Book of the Month Club books. They're in no particular order. So the first one I have is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. And I was quite surprised when it came in the mail to see how chunky this thing is. I mean, it's a hardback and it's still like super thick. And this is a YA novel. Like, you don't normally get YA novels that are this big. So that kind of intimidates me a little bit, but it is what it is. So this is about a girl whose mother went missing and she's trying to figure out what happened to her. And then one day she just shows up again, just out of the blue. Mom comes walking back into her life like nothing happened. And so now she's like, what is going on? Why did she leave in the first place? And, I'm sure there's some resentment there as well. So I'll admit I'm not the biggest fan of Holly Jackson's really popular trilogy that starts with The Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I just thought it was okay. So this will be my second try by this author. It just sounded really interesting and really intriguing, so I definitely wanted to check it out. And I'm always willing to give an author another chance. I mean, I don't think one book is enough to really know what their writing style is or is indicative of their backlist titles. Although this isn't backlist, obviously. This is a new release, but I just mean one book is not enough to truly know if an author is for you or not. So even though I didn't quite like that one, I didn't hate it either. So I'm eager to see what else this author has out. I also own 5 Survive. Is that what it's called? So I feel like 3 books is enough to know if an author is for me. So after I read those 2, we shall see. So this is one that I recently hauled from Book of the Month. It's called Middletide by Sarah Crouch. And I have never read anything by this author. I've never heard of this book, but I saw it as one of the selections and the premise sounded intriguing. It's one that I've seen before, but it still intrigues me anyways. It reminds me of a Bones episode if you like that show. But anyway, so this is about a failed writer, and I always enjoy books about writers. I don't know if it happens on his property or not, but there's a body of this beautiful doctor that is found hanging from a tree, and it just so happens that all the details that goes along with her murder or suicide, because I think they think it's a suicide at first, is straight out of a book that he wrote. So now they're kind of turning their attention towards him, being like, how did you write about something that hadn't happened yet? So anyways, like I said, I've heard this premise before, but it doesn't stop it from being intriguing. And it's very short. It's like less than 300 pages. So I was excited to see what this was all about. So this one's also about a writer. It's called How to End a Love Story, and this one is a romance. and it takes place in LA. And there's this woman who is a writer of young adult novels, and she is having her books turned into a TV series, and she actually gets to be a screenwriter for it, which is very exciting. But when she walks in, she discovers that one of the other writers is a guy from her past that apparently there was some kind of accident that happened 13 years ago and it changed both of their lives. And so she's not real happy about it. It sounds like it might be like an enemies to lovers trope, which is my favorite trope. So I'm very excited to read this one. Then we have Kill for Me, Kill for You by Stephen Kavanaugh. And I've heard nothing but good things about this. People are raving about this book right now. But this reminds me of The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, because it sounds like it's two women that get together and one of them says, hey, I can solve all your problems by killing this person in your life for you if you're willing to kill this other person in my life for me. And then we both win. So it's one of those, but sounds very interesting, sounds intriguing, sounds like a good time. Then we have a fantasy novel called Heartless Hunter, and I'm not really into fantasy anymore, but I thought the cover was really beautiful and I really liked the premise. It sounds like it's going to be like a witch and a witch hunter that fall in love, and which sounds a lot like that Gods and Serpents, but I haven't read that one yet. But it sounds very similar, but I don't know. I just really like that premise. I think it sounds fun. It sounds like the tension will be there because it's going to be like a fantasy romance. Like I said, I'm not huge into fantasy anymore, but I just wanted to pick this one up because it did catch my attention. Okay, so this next one I picked up only because it was free. So it was a book of the month choice for like the 5 best books of the year, and I was able to pick one for free. And all the other ones I either already had or didn't have an interest in. So I picked Shark Heart by Emily Habit, and I'll admit this one sounds really weird. So this is about a woman whose husband is apparently transitioning into a shark, like a literal shark. And it's literary fiction, which I just don't usually jibe with. I'm just not a literary fiction girly. I like genre fiction, but I don't know, it was free and everybody raves about this book and says it's so good. And even people that don't normally read this genre say that it's really good. So I guess this is the time to check it out. And of course, I had to pick up Murder Road by Simone St. James. I absolutely love Simone St. James. She's an autobiography author for me. I have read everything she's put out. Well, that's not true. I've read all of her modern ones. She's got several backlist titles written back in the 20s, and I'm still making my way through those. But either way, she's an excellent author. Love her stories a lot. So I was very, very excited for this one. Unfortunately, I've already read this and I didn't like it. I gave it a 2-star, so that was disappointing. Okay, I know I said I wasn't a fantasy reader, but if I am going to read fantasy, this is the type of fantasy that I would read. And this is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I've never read anything by this author before, but I just absolutely love the premise for this. So I'm actually planning on writing a book myself next. I'm in the middle of writing a haunted house book right now, but the next one I plan to write is actually a zombie story that's set in 15th century Spain. And so this book is also written in 15th century Spain and has all those medieval vibes. And so I was very intrigued by it. And it sounds like there's a lady that's like a scullery maid or something, and she can perform little miracles is what she calls it, but really it's little bits of magic. And so the mistress of the house, she sees her perform one of these miracles, and so now she's going to try to use her to get in good at the king's court or something like that. So anyways, this is very intriguing. Like I said, if I'm going to read fantasy, this is the type of fantasy I'm going to read because I love medieval books. I love historical novels. Sounds like it might be a little bit darker, might have bits of the story be about the plague or something. So that's all very intriguing. I don't know if it has the plague actually, but either way, it might be a darker story. So this is just the type of fantasy that I'm into, or that I'm interested in picking up. Okay, the last book from Book of the Month Club that I picked up just recently is The Last Party by Claire McIntosh. I picked this up only because I wanted to pick up the second one. I'll be honest. So this just sounded like a typical thriller. I did love the pink on the cover. I thought that was really awesome, but I just never picked it up. I just was like, maybe sometime down the road when I don't have anything else as an add-on, I'll pick this up. And I guess that time was now because I read the premise of the second book and I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. But I don't know if you have to read the first book first. I don't think you do. It sounds like it's one of those series where you're just following the same detective, but the case that they're doing is different. So I don't think I would be lost if I started with the second one. But there's always like those personal details about the detective that you don't get by reading them out of order. So I figured there's only 2 books, so I might as well just start at the beginning. So I went ahead and got this as an add-on last month, or this month actually. Which leads me into my hardback thrillers and new releases that I've picked up, starting with the second one, The Game of Lies. So this is the second one in the series. For some reason, Book of the Month didn't have this as an option, so I had to buy this one at Barnes & Noble at full price, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. So this is a reality TV show about these people that are in the Welsh Mountains, and when you get eliminated from the show, it's not just being kicked off, your secrets are being revealed live to the whole world. And so obviously all the people in this reality TV show has some kind of secret in their past that they don't want to be revealed. So it sounds like it's going to have a lot of drama and it's just going to be a lot of fun. And then one of the contestants ends up missing and presumed murdered, which was not supposed to be part of the show. So now they're trying to figure out who done it. So anyways, it sounds wacky and just fun. Just very entertaining, and I'm excited to read it. Okay, so this is a new release that I picked up recently. This is a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and I am so excited to tell you it is like the coolest book I own. It's so phenomenal. So I'm talking about Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. And look at this cover. They made it look like an old VHS tape, with the VHS and everything where you label it on the side for those of you that are old enough to remember this. And then it's like the jacket that and then the book itself looks like a VHS tape. Like, how freaking cool is that? I love this book for that reason. So I really hope that this ends up being as cool on the inside as it is on the outside, because I just thought that was so cool. I'm such a nerd when it comes to 80s and 90s nostalgic stuff like that. So this is about a family. I think there's 3 siblings, and their parents have recently died, and they're going through the house, to get rid of things or divvy up things, as you do. And they come across some old VHS tapes, and they're like home videos. And so like, oh, well, let's, watch these. It'll be a step down memory lane. It will be awesome. So they put in the tape, and it's their parents doing something nefarious, and there's blood all over their father, and I think their father has probably murdered someone, and the mom is helping to cover it up. So now they're trying to figure out what happened and what their parents were involved in. Sounds very fun. Sounds really interesting and intriguing, and I'm very excited to read this one. Okay, so this one I think is more of like a cozy murder mystery rather than a thriller. The Framed Women of Ardmore House. I honestly don't remember what this is about, but I'm kind of okay with that. It's nice to go into murder mysteries not really knowing much. I know it takes place in Wales, and I believe it's historical, like it takes place in the 1800s or something. But anyways, it sounded fun. It sounded intriguing. I haven't heard of this author before, but the premise at the time sounded really intriguing, even though I don't remember it anymore. So I think I'm just going to go into this one blind and hopefully have a fun time with it. Next, we have Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. And this is about a girl who lost her parents and she has to go live with her grandparents. And she never knew anything about her mother's side of the family until after her parents passed, because apparently there was bad blood there and they just didn't talk or get along. And so now she's forced to go live with her, and apparently she's rich and she's part of this like vast societal world. So she has to take her place in this rich girl's world with all of her cousins. But then she learns a deep, dark secret in her family's past, and so it makes her run away, and she doesn't want anything to do with them. And it's probably the reason that her mother left in the first place. But then, fast forward 11 years later, one of her cousins has gone missing. So now she wants to try and figure out what happened to her cousin. So it sounds fun. I love this cover. I just think it's really cool with all these old, like, pictures and frames. I just really thought that was cool. Next, we have The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins, and I can't believe I haven't read this one yet. I was so excited for this one, and I hear really good things about it, and I just haven't gotten into it yet, and it's really frustrating to me. But hopefully I can get to it soon. So this one is kind of similar, honestly, to the Roanoke Girls, except instead of a girl, it's a boy. But only in the sense that his mom has passed away, but again, there was bad blood between him and his mother, and he didn't want anything to do with her. And her mother was rich and wanted to leave her vast fortune to her son. And he's like, no, 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 I don't care about money. I don't want that. I don't want to be part of that world. But then something happens that makes him get dragged back into it. And it sounds like he's adopted. And so he never really knew why his mother adopted him. So he kind of wants to find out that. And then apparently his mother has had like 4 different husbands and they've all passed away. And so that's kind of suspicious that maybe his mother has been killing her husbands. I hear very good things about this and I'm very excited to get to it. And hopefully I'll get to it soon. Next, we have The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels. I have not read anything by Janice Howlett, and I don't really know anything about this book, to be honest. I think I'm just going to go in blind. I think it's like a mixed media book. It sounds like that's kind of the way that Janice Howlett writes, is just like texts and emails and phone conversations and different things like that. I mostly picked this up because of Erin Megan. She has a booktube channel, if you don't know about her, and she gave it a glowing review and made it sound so good. So I just picked it up and I'm just going to try it out and go in blind. Then we have The Guest by B.A. Paris, and this is about a woman and her husband who go away for like a weekend getaway, and then when they are gone, their friend is like, hey, I need a place to stay. I got kicked out or something. She just needs a place to stay. And so they're like, okay, well, while we're on vacation, you can go ahead and use our house. So she's like, cool. So then they get back and she's like, oh, I need to stay a few more days. And so like, okay, you can stay a few more days. But then she just keeps staying and she won't leave and they can't get her to get out of their house. So it sounds very fun and zany and sounds like an entertaining read. Okay, the next one we have is The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. I just love this cover. I love the pink and it looks kind of moody and it's got like this elegant apartment building in the background. I just think it looks really cool. And I'm not the hugest fan of Lisa Unger. I've read a few of her novels and they're just okay. But I couldn't help but pick this one up because not only does it have a beautiful cover, but it sounds a lot like Rosemary's Baby vibes, which I absolutely love. It doesn't have any pregnant people in it, but it's just the fact that this couple inherit this luxury apartment called the Windermere, and then all of a sudden, at first it's always a dream come true, but then all of a sudden they start to get suspicious that not everything is as it seems at the Windermere because there's cameras everywhere and their neighbors act suspicious and there's like a weird doorman that's just always around and so it sounds like it has those type of Rosemary's Baby vibes, which I just absolutely love. I just recently read Lock Every Door and The Nestlings, and both of them had that same vibe and that same atmosphere, and that's what I'm hoping to get from this novel, so we shall see. Then we have She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica, and I mostly just picked this up because it's a Mary Kubica book, and I do love the purple. But the premise sounds okay. It just sounds like a typical thriller, so I'm hoping that something surprises me or that I really connect to the characters or something. But anyways, this is about a woman who's a nurse and she's also a single mother trying to raise a teenager. And there's another teenager that jumped off a bridge, and so they all think it's suicide, but she's starting to believe that it wasn't, that she might have been pushed. So like I said, it sounds kind of like a typical thriller. There's nothing really in the premise that makes me super excited, but it's Mary Kubica, so that's why I'm excited to read this book, if I'm being honest. So the next three books that I'm going to share are ones that I bought on Pango because I sold some other books and got some money. So like I said, I always turn around and just spend it on more books because, why wouldn't you? So anyways, the first one is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. And this one sounds really cool and really interesting. It almost sounds more like a rom-com in a way than a thriller, but it's definitely a thriller. So there's this woman who is a secretary and a single mother, and she doesn't really like her job or her life. She just feels like she's in a rut. So she goes to a bar one night just to get drunk. But she meets a man there and she kind of likes him and they kind of make out and stuff. So it might go farther than making out. I'm not sure. Probably. But anyways, so she goes to work the next day and she has a new boss. And lo and behold, that new boss is this guy that she just had a one night stand with. And he's married. So she's like, well, that sucks. But apparently he still can't keep his eyes off her and he still wants to pursue her. But she's like, no, 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 I don't do that. I don't date married men. So then she separately meets this woman who is new to the city and desperate for a friend and is lonely, and they strike up a friendship only to find out that this woman is her boss's wife. So now she's entangled in these people's lives, which just sounds like a juicy, drama-filled, fun thriller. And I'm excited to get to this one. I hear it has an amazing twist at the end. So sounds like a good time. Then we have For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. This is a dark academia thriller. So this is about a college professor and he's very cynical about the world and stuff. It kind of reminds me of American Psycho, even though I've never read American Psycho, but I've seen like the previews and I've heard people give reviews of that book, and that's what this sounds like. Is there's just a man that's kind of sophisticated and smart, but he also has a chip on his shoulder, basically, and he's just very upset with these college students that take, college for granted. They not good people or they just rub him the wrong way. He just can't stand this younger generation. And so he decides to start killing off his students. But in his mind, he's doing a good thing for the world and for society. So I love a gray villain like that thinks he's doing good. It's always a fun time. So this sounds like a good thriller to pick up in September. Then we have The Long Weekend by Gillian McMillan. This is like a locked door mystery where this group of people are going off on vacation together. There's like 3 or 4 different couples that are going on this getaway. And the women get there first because their men have to work or different things. And so they're like, well, we're just going to go up a day early and have like a girls' night, and then our men can come join us later. And so they go up to this isolated place where, of course, there's no cell phone service, but there is a note that says that one of their husbands is going to be murdered, but it doesn't say who, and they can't call them because they don't have cell service, and there must be another reason why they can't just leave. Like maybe all the tires are slashed, or maybe there's a storm, or, there's got to be another reason why they can't just leave. But anyway, so they are scrambling to figure out whose husband is going to be murdered, which of course adds to the stress. And so they start fighting and bickering with each other, and other secrets start coming to light. So sounds like a really fun time. It sounds like it's going to have a lot of drama. And I don't know, if drama's done correctly, I really enjoy it. Sometimes it can create unlikable characters, and I just hate their cattiness. But at other times, it can be really fun and entertaining. So let's hope it's the latter. Okay, now I have some middle grade books that I picked up at my daughter's school during the book fair. And the first one is Camp Scared by Delilah S. Dawson. And this sounds like a perfect one for the summer because it takes place at a summer camp. And there's this girl who's been bullied at school, and she's excited to get away for the summer and not have to deal with the bullies at school. But unfortunately, a girl in her cabin just so happens to be the meanest girl at school that picks on her all the time. And so apparently there's also dark secrets about the camp itself that won't stay buried, and she makes friends with this other girl who seems a little bit off. And then, of course, I had to pick up the next K.R. Alexander. I picked up all of her books because the covers are just amazing and they all sound fun. And this one is called Last Laugh, and it's about this boy named Victor, and his sister. There's a room in their grandmother's house that's always locked, and they're told to never go in there, that it's off limits. And of course, when you tell a child that something's off limits, what's the first thing they want to do? They want to open that door. They want to see what's in there, they become very curious. So one time when they're left at their grandmother's house alone, he decides to open this door. And when he opens it, the room is filled with these clown dolls. And now that the door's open, these clown dolls will not be contained anymore. So it sounds very fun. Who doesn't love a good killer clown doll? Then we have Nightmare King by Dr. Herman. And this is the same author as Hide and Seeker, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was a really fun middle grade novel. And this is about a boy who's playing tag with his friends, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and he doesn't know where he is. And he's told that there was an accident and that he had actually passed away, and now miraculously he's back from the dead. But every time he falls asleep, he visits a fantastical land that's reigned over by this Nightmare King who wants to control him and his friends' dreams. So maybe like a Freddy Krueger type deal is happening, but sounds like it could be a lot of fun. Like I said, I like the first book by this author that was having to do with hide and seek, and now this is about the game tag, so I thought that was kind of fun and clever. Then we have It Watches in the Dark by Jeff Strand. I didn't know that Jeff Strand wrote children's books. I've only seen adult novels by him. So that was exciting. And this is about a scarecrow, which also is intriguing. So anyways, so this is about a group of kids and they're on like a white rapid rafting trip with one of the boys' dads, and he was allowed to bring some friends along with him. But they get to these white rapids and they go overboard, and the dad ends up hitting his head on a rock and is unconscious. So they desperately try to get to the side of the river and try and get help for their dad. And they find this little trail that leads into the forest. So they follow this path and they find this quaint little town in the middle of nowhere, this little village. And in the middle of the village square is this creepy scarecrow. And the people in that town is like, oh, we love our scarecrow. He watches over us. He protects us. But there's some people in the town that are like, you really need to get out of here if you want to leave. Because if you wait too long, there's no leaving. You're going to have to stay. But their father can't be moved and they can't carry him all that way. They don't even know how to get to civilization. And it's getting dark out. So they have no choice but to spend the night and hope that whatever creepy thing's going on in this village doesn't catch up to them. So that premise sounds amazing. It sounds really, really fun and cool. So I'm very excited to get to this one soon. So now I have some romance novels to share with you. The first two are Regency romances. The first one's called The Inconvenient Letter by Julie Wright. And I've read several books by this author, but they were all modern contemporary novels. So it'll be exciting to read something that's Regency coming from her. Or it could be Victorian, but I think it's Regency. Either way, old-timey. So this is about a woman who is head over heels in love with this man, and she writes him this long love letter, not intending to ever show it to him, but just like girls do when they like scribble their name in their notebooks. It's just something she did because she just loves him and she wanted to get her thoughts and feelings down on paper. But when the guy comes to the house to gather up the mail to deliver it, he accidentally picks up that letter and delivers it. And she's like, no. So she races over to his house to see if she can intercept this letter before he reads it. But she comes into contact with his cousin, and the cousin had already read the letter and knew what it was about. And so he's like, hey, if you don't want me to reveal this letter to my cousin, then you needed to do something for me. So essentially blackmailing her. So he wants to, I guess he's in love with her sister, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's her older sister, Anne. So he's like, if you help me woo and win over your sister's heart, then I will not reveal this letter to Frederick, I think his name is. So she's like, okay, deal. Because she'd be so mortified if he ever found this letter. So she helps this guy woo her sister, but then as she's trying to help him, she discovers that maybe she likes him more than she liked the other guy. So it sounds really fun. Then we have Protecting Her Heart by Nancy Allen Campbell. And this is actually the third in a series. I haven't read the series yet, but I just wanted to pick up the third one so that now I could just read them all together. I don't think they necessarily go together. Like, I think you could read them separately because it's one of those romances where it's like you have the love between these two characters, and then it's like her sister's love story or his brother's love story or whatever, you know. I think it's like that. So I don't think you have to necessarily read them in order, but I'm going to. This one is Victorian. It looks like it takes place in 1887. I think the main girl is like a journalist for a newspaper or something. I don't really know, but I just want to read them in order, so I didn't really want to know too much about this. And I think the journalist is actually the first book that I'm thinking of, not this one. But anyway, so I just picked up the third one. Hope it's good. I've read other things by this author that I've enjoyed, so I'm excited to get to it. And then, of course, I had to pick up Funny Story by Emily Henry, because how could you not? Emily Henry is a phenomenal romance writer, and I love all of her books. Well, that's a lie. I didn't like The People We Meet on Vacation. I didn't like that one. I actually ended up DNFing it. But other than that one, I really enjoy her books, and I hear really good things about this one, and I'm really excited to get to it again. You know, I need to stop saying that because obviously I'm excited to get to all of these. I wouldn't have bought them otherwise. Then these next two I bought as a whim when I was grocery shopping at Walmart. I've heard of Lucy Score, but I haven't read anything by her. But this is a duology, and the first one's called The Dead Guy Next Door. And then the second one is called The Corpse in the Closet. So it sounds like it's kind of a murder mystery romance. So that sounded really intriguing and fun. I don't really know that much about them. I think a woman, she's like living in this house, and then she discovers this body in the closet, and she runs next door to like the hot detective that lives next door or something. But I don't know. So I don't really know for sure what these are about, but they just sounded like a fun time, although this one's like super thick, and I don't like romances that are super long because I feel like there's a lot of filler when that happens. But because it's also a murder mystery, I'm hoping that that's why it's so long, because if it's just the romance, it can get a little bit tedious. But hopefully the other elements of the story will help with the pacing. When I got that nonfiction book and it was buy one, get one 50%, I bought Everyone is Watching by Heather Gutenkopf. That's the book that I bought in tandem with that one. I had already read this one as a NetGalley arc, but I loved it. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very entertaining. It's not like the best thriller I've ever read, but I don't know. I just had a really good time with it. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really enjoyable. And there was some things that happened that was kind of shocking. So even though I had already read this one, and I don't tend to buy books that I already read because I'm not huge when it comes to rereading thrillers, but I was like, you know, I do want this one on my shelves. So I went and picked this one up. So if you're looking for a fun thriller this summer, I highly recommend this one. This is kind of like Game of Lies because it has to do with reality TV. There's this group of people that are part of this reality TV show that's a little bit like Survivor, where you have to perform these different feats, and then you vote somebody off at the end and you're trying to get money. So it is very Survivor-esque if you're into that TV show. So of course it comes to light that all the contestants actually have these dark secrets in their past, and they're getting revealed as part of the show, and lots of drama ensues. And I don't know, I just thought it was fun. It was a little bit predictable, but I just enjoyed it for what it was. I just let it take me for a ride. Okay, so I'm already at 45 minutes with editing. It might be like 40, 42 minutes long, but I probably am going to cut it off and have to do two parts because I still have a lot of books to talk about, but I haven't talked about any of my horror. It's all been like romance and thriller. Well, that's not true. The middle grade was horror, I guess, but you know, I really wanted to showcase some of my horror, so I'm going to go ahead and show you some of them. The rest of them will have to wait for part 2 in August, unfortunately. So the first one I want to showcase because it looked summery, and that's The Haunting of Bona Adventure Circus by Jamie Jo Wright. And I just want to go into this one blind. It's got a haunting, it's got a circus. That's really all I need to know. And I just love this cover. Then we have the Botanical Daughter. And this one gave me sort of Frankenstein vibes mixed with, what's that book? Such Pretty Flowers. I read that book last year and really enjoyed it. It's got, you know, the deadly flowers angle and like deadly plants and all of that type of stuff. So it just sounded very intriguing, very interesting. I don't know if this is mushroom horror, but anyways, takes place in Victorian London, and the premise just sounded really good. I was just at Barnes and Noble trying to get a different book, and I had never heard of this one before, and it just caught my eye. Then we have The Haunting in the Arctic, and I've heard really good things about this one, and I always love a good haunting. Sounds like a really good one for like January because it's very cold. And I think it takes place during like the Northwest Passage when the British were trying to get their ships through to make exporting goods easier. But anyways, I think that's what this is about, but it sounds like it's a dual timeline where some of it takes place in the past and some of it takes place in modern times when they find this old British ship that got stuck in the ice. And so they're on board trying to figure out what happened to this crew. But then there's something else on board, you know, some kind of a spirit or some kind of an entity or maybe a creature, I'm not sure. But something's not right with the ship that they find. And so it sounds very fun, very intriguing, very cold, and something that would be perfect for next winter. And then another one that seems summery is Cursed Cruise. I believe this is a YA novel, and this is about a group of teenagers that are paranormal investigators, and they come across this ghost ship. So sounds like a fun time. And then one of my most anticipated books for the year is Oracle by Thomas Oldhoyvelt. This is a translated work. He, I believe, is from Norway or something like that. But this is a sequel to Hex, but I don't know if it's like a direct sequel or if it's just in the same world, or maybe I'm hoping it kind of gives us more insight into the witch of that story and how she came to be the way that she was. But anyways, for any of you guys who have read Hex, which I have absolutely loved, this is, I guess, a sequel. So I'm very excited to read this one. It sounds like it's going to be about this group of kids. I think there's like a boy and a girl, and they stumble upon this ship that's in the middle of the woods. Like, it's not anywhere near water. It's not by the ocean or even a lake. It's just, they just find this old ship in the woods. And so they're like, well, that's weird, you know. So the boy, he, of course, goes inside the ship because why wouldn't you want to explore something like that? And he doesn't come back out. He just disappears. So the media frenzy begins when this girl starts ranting and raving about her missing brother or friend or whoever it is. And they all converge on the ship and try to figure out what's going on with the ship and what happened to the boy. So it sounds really fun and very intriguing, and I'm excited to get to it. And then another very, very anticipated read is The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry. I love Christina Henry's books. She's an autobiography author for me now, and this one sounds really fun. It sounds like it's going to be almost more of a thriller than a horror, I would say, but it sounds like it's going to have a lot of horror references and like be pretty meta, so that's fun. So this is about a woman who was a single mother, and she receives this awesome job to be a housekeeper for this famous screenwriter. And she's very excited because she gets to clean his house, and he's got like all this memorabilia from all of his horror movies, and she's a huge fan, and so she kind of gets to geek out at all this stuff that she has to clean. But she discovers this locked door in his house and tells her that she's not allowed to go in there. But as she's cleaning one day, she hears voices on the other side of that door. So I'm thinking maybe this man has kidnapped somebody and is keeping her there. I don't know. I'm so excited for this one. I just picked this up a few days ago and I cannot wait to read it. So that's going to be the end of this video. If you want to see more books that I've bought, then go ahead and wait for August for part 2. And I'm sure there'll be more books by then because that's a couple of months from now and I just can't stop buying books. So anyway, so stay tuned for part 2 and I will catch you later. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you like it so that I can continue making these videos for you. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I encourage you to do so now, and I'll catch you later. Bye.